2025 is coming up quick, and we've realized a pattern with us is I feel like we constantly, at this time of the year, we evaluate what worked and what didn't work through the year, and then we try to get a game plan going to get us set up for next year for success.
I would say this. I know that we've done these in the past. We've met with Kirsten. We've had meetings with our mentors to get prepped for the following year. But this was the first year that I felt that we kind of constructed this on our own, and we brought our leadership team together.
And it was planned. It wasn't like, let's
Yeah.
go to
There
lunch and talk about some shit. It was like,
we had an agenda.
Here's what we're here to do today. Let's figure it out.
Yeah, it was effective.
Yeah.
I feel like after it was all said and done, it was a lot of deep diving that happened and self-reflection and, us thinking about what worked and what didn't work. But I do feel really good about going into 2025.
No, it was definitely a good day. And if you're on a leadership team or own a salon and you haven't done this, definitely get a day planned where you can sit down with your team.
Yeah.
And
even if
collaborate.
Even if it is just on your own, I think it's important to do those types of reflection exercises where you're able to see what worked in your business and what didn't. For us, our leadership team is such a big part of the day in and day out, and they're essentially the boots on the ground, getting all of the systems and processes in line. So they were a big part of this. In fact, we sent out a lot of prep work for each manager to do for the locations so that when we did sit down, we were ready. Like, we weren't going to be in a situation where we're going to sit down and come up with these ideas and then be running reports at the table.
Yeah.
All of that was already done. We were prepped and ready to go so that when we did sit down, it was delivering all of the reports and everything that we needed to see. And then we just worked on strategies and how to make it better.
Well, before we get into the strategies, let's talk about what we are going to do differently than we did from 2024 going into 2025. What do you guys think is different that we're going to be focusing on?
Hold on. I just want to mention, I think for like small salon owners, like leadership team might sound like intimidating.
For sure.
So I think it's important to mention, like when we say leadership team, like leadership team started out as like used to.
Yes.
And then it like progressed into like a manager and you two. And then it was like all three of us and another manager. So like our leadership team isn't huge by any means, but I think when we say leadership team, it's like basically the people that you want like boots on the ground, your secondhand people that have a lot of input and value to add to like what your struggles might be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So just like not being intimidated by that term and not doing leadership teams because you're like, oh, like I'm only one owner and I have like 4 stylists. Like there's still value there if you're, even meeting with like just your team too.
So
right.
You're so head on with that. And I feel that, I'm sitting here and I'm like slightly envious of a salon owner who has a few, key team players, but they're probably so engaged and on the same page and they're all together. Like there's potential for those 4 individuals to come together and create the plan together.
Right.
Like that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but essentially that's what we do. We just take our leaders, like our managers, our owners, and we collaborate and we come, and then we just execute it. Like we all come up with the plan, and then it's important to have our leaders there because they are the boots in the ground for us. They're in the salon every single day, and they're the ones that are executing all of our ideas and and following up with us. So for us, it is important. When you have 3 companies and over 85 employees, you need a leadership team. So
yeah. And something that we did this year that I feel like has definitely impacted us big time is us meeting weekly, which is something we never did up until this past year. And I feel like that's something that has like nipped like little situations that have happened in the butt. Like we don't have to spend a ton of time on like one small thing. Like we can just hash it out in those weekly meetings. And then when we all come together and meet for like the big meetings, we can actually work on like moving the needle with the company.
It's been a game changer.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, the leadership meetings that we have weekly with them and then the Monday lives.
Yeah.
Like that allows us to kind of just basically, like you said, just take tiny things and tweak them or address them so that when we are spending these types of meetings are so well spent.
Yeah.
So what would you guys say our focus for 2024 was?
Marketing.
Marketing and education.
Education.
Like this time last year, we sat down and those were the 2 areas of focus that we really needed to prioritize for 2024.
Yeah.
Thinking about it right now, I feel good about both of those things.
Yeah, we've come a long way.
Yeah. I think that the quality of hair that we're doing was a concern last year, and right now I feel so good about it. Like, I just am so impressed with the team. I think that they have all taken their own initiative to progress and learn and grow, and that was the goal. It was to get people excited about doing hair again and finding passion and drive, and I think a lot of that happened this year, so that feels good. Marketing's been fun. Like, this is a pain point for us, and it has been in the past, but for right now it feels good. I think the whole team's engaged. That's a momentum type of thing where once one does it, the other one jumps on, but now I feel like the whole team is just on board with marketing, and that is no longer a pain point.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should probably talk about that in an episode, like marketing techniques that we're using and strategies.
Yeah.
Because I do think we came so far.
Yeah.
With it. All right, so going into 2025. So last year our focus was education and marketing. 2025, what are we focusing on?
I think perceived value, guest experience.
Yes.
Which this isn't our first rodeo with this.
Yeah, I mean, we're in like an economic downturn, and I think people are down to spend money, but when they spend their money, they want the value to be there. They don't want to be, let down or feel like they got didn't get their money's worth. Yeah, like
right.
they spent every penny and they were happy with everything that, they came in to get done.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's kind of why we've shifted our strategy this year.
Yeah, and perceived value goes so far beyond the physical service. So it's not just about what my haircut looks like or the color that I requested. It's so much bigger than that, and it's about the experience that was provided when they called to make the appointment, or what our website looked like when they were on there browsing, what our marketing and Instagram, and then in addition, just the experience with the entire team, the front desk, the apprentices, the stylist. One thing for us that I feel like we identified in this strategy meeting was that we needed to work on being consistent across all 3 companies.
Yes.
That was a big thing. That's something that I think is going to be a massive shift for 2025, because I feel like we do a good job, but we are not consistent. And I think all of us felt that. So that's definitely a big priority for next year. And luckily, we were able to sit down that day and come up with a game plan, in addition to all the feedback that we received from the team at the last meeting.
So you had the managers and ourselves come up with some prep work prior to, so that we weren't running reports. I feel like you already said this, but maybe you did.
But that's fine.
But the prep work kind of looked like our peak revenue months, promotions that maybe worked the best, what the clients are kind of talking about. I feel like the managers have a lot of insight with interacting with our guests every day. So it's not unlikely that they'll be like, oh, the clients are waiting for this promotion to happen. They're asking if we're doing this again this year. So things like that they could come to us and be like, okay, like this is working, but this is not.
Yes. The big thing also is obviously slow times. I think they ran so many reports to just basically be able to identify what weeks were slow. And for us, and I'm not sure if other salon companies are finding this, I imagine so, but it's to the point now where in 2024, it wasn't like slow months. It was like a week was really slow, and then the next week was slammed. So we had to really dive deep to figure out exactly what the trends looked like for 2024 so that we can better plan for 2025 and have a strategy in place to fill those books in advance. So that, that was interesting to see those trends, and they were pretty consistent across all 3 companies. But yeah, the prep work was key, because when we got there, it was like we weren't wasting time. It was let's get down to business. So that was definitely an essential piece of the puzzle. So when we sat down, the first thing that we talked about is, I think everybody gave their opinion on what worked and what's not working. Alicia pulled out a big board and we just started writing down ideas. And from there, it just rolled, and it was good. It was so fun.
Yeah.
I think we all had a good time, and just, it wasn't like a stressful experience. It was more motivating, I feel.
Yeah.
And I think we all together collectively came up with so many good ideas for next year.
we kind of like went down the list of all the things that weren't working and like tried to figure out solutions. Like, I mean, how many solutions did we have for each thing that we felt like was going wrong? And by the end of it, we were all able to be like, all right, like this is the answer, because we went through like every single scenario of every problem that there was, which was kind of cool.
It was great.
Like talking through it.
It really was. Yeah. I think we got creative and everybody came together to, come up with a game plan. So for next year, obviously we're coming together to create a more consistent experience across all 3 locations. For us, we do a lot of work. I think that's a huge part of our jobs as owners right now, is just basically be that bird's eye view to make sure that we're paying attention to what ways we can improve, and weekly kind of shifting gears to get there.
Yeah.
Things that we struggle with right now are our implementation, onboarding. That's something that we're definitely focused on. And I think I'm so confident that that's going to be so much better next year.
Yeah.
So many less headaches going digital.
I mean, can we talk about like how problems are like so evolving too? Like, I think every year we have like a totally different issue. And it's like you can't be good at all of the things all at once. You know what I mean? And like once you find, like you said, like with momentum, like once you have the momentum with one. So I think it's important to mention, like anytime you have an issue in your company, like that's a great thing to have, because it's only like making you evolve as a company as a whole, and work towards like being good at all the things.
Absolutely.
I agree. I think it's really important to be able to identify like your issues and not just like sweeping them under the rug.
Right.
So once you identify it, like you said, you definitely can grow from it.
Right.
And if that isn't happening for you and everything's, rainbows and butterflies, you're really not growing.
Right.
Nothing's getting better. You're just staying where you are. You're treading water. So
I mean, surface level, like you go on to our reviews and like look at the reviews, and like you would think that like wasn't, like consistency wasn't an issue, but like the way that we are and the way that we like dissect every little thing, just like be like having like the self-awareness and knowing like, okay, like this could use some work.
For sure.
We literally, not that we only welcome feedback from people, we actually like go for it. And I feel like it was huge for us when we decided, and I don't know if we even want to talk about this or not, but I think it's important, when we decided to throw in those secret shoppers. I mean, that was all voluntary. We were looking for good feedback, bad feedback, like anything we could get. Where I feel like some people see like a Google review email comes in and they're like stressed. They don't even want to open it because they're afraid of what it is, where we welcome it.
Right.
We want it.
Yeah.
To the point where we like initiated almost with the shoppers.
Yeah.
So I think the strategy piece was obviously we came up with all of the issues, right? The things that we're going to work on next year. Now it's time to actually make the changes and make sure that next year is going to be different than this year, and we are going to improve at whatever it is that we're struggling with. How are we doing it? Like, what are the things that we're doing? For me, it's obviously the keeping the leadership team involved, but also the team.
Yeah.
Like, I think making sure that whoever the boots are on the ground and the managers are able to basically have the same vision that we have. And I think the key was all of us coming up with that together, because now we all have this similar vision, and then it's on us to kind of instill that vision on the team and make sure we're all progressing toward those goals.
That last meeting that we had with the team, I think, was just so important, having them so involved, and even just breaking off in the smaller groups and having them coming up with the ideas for, implementing for front desk, or how you greet a client, or how you shampoo a head. Like, I think that is just so important to have your team involved in that.
Yeah. There's so much like it's so easy for a salon owner or anybody in any business, any type of owner, to say, okay, like this is how I want this done. And like the team might agree with you, but if the team isn't involved in like making those decisions on how it should be done, like it's just kind of like in one ear and out the other.
They're going to do it their way.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that meeting was great. I think it was one of our, we definitely structured it differently, which I don't know if it was better or worse than, before, but I think we did get some value from having everyone involved. I did get a lot of good feedback. Everybody loved being involved and being called on and asked questions and breaking off in groups. So
it It was super interactive.
Yeah.
It wasn't just us standing in front of them delivering a message. It was us basically creating changes as a team, which was amazing.
Yep. And they loved it just like we did. So 2025, we have a lot going on. We are shifting from focusing on marketing and education, and we are going to, try to focus on our implementation process for onboarding. What else do we got? We have some really cool things coming up. Some software updates that we're going to be implementing.
Well, not just that. I think that when we sat down as a whole, I think some of us see like emails that come through and some of us don't. So there'll be like, updates from like our software company, like now introducing this, where somebody might not see that. And when we sat down, it was like, okay, like Dana mentioned like the consultation forms and she like researched it. And we were able to like utilize that. Where like, I didn't even know that that was a possibility. So like, I think researching any software that you're using and like seeing what kind of updates that they offer that could possibly support a pain point in your company is huge.
Sue Ellen had mentioned that one of the procedures that we're doing for, was it time off or was it redos?
It was the cancellation policy.
That wasn't working.
Yeah.
Like they came together as the manager and basically were like, hey guys, like this system isn't working. We need to change it up. So that was an opportunity for us to make that change, which was simple but effective.
And also, like, I think a lot of times we feel like we need to have all the answers and sometimes we need to like just let go. And it was like, okay, like what's the solution? Try it out and let's see what happens. What?
Yeah, we've talked about that before.
Control freaks out there. I see.
No, but we've talked about that before in other episodes, how important it is to recognize like if something's not working and to be willing to change it.
Yeah. Not only change it, but like let them figure it out too.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I literally just texted Lexi and Sue Ellen before we got on this and I was like, hey, we have an issue on this date. Can you guys let me know what you think? Because I just feel like I'm like, me involved sometimes makes it worse.
Yeah.
Like just stay out of it. Like let them handle their business and it seems to work a lot better that way at times. So
Yeah.
that's it. But 2025 is going to be a good year, I'm excited.
So 2025 is going to be the stepping stones for us for our 2026 pre-treat that we're going to be planning. So this is exciting. I mean, we're going to use this whole next year to put some strategies in place so that we can take this team and do our pre-treat in January of 26.
I know. Why do I have like anxiety around this already?
What, the trip?
Yeah.
Why?
Just the whole planning portion that goes
Come on, you're not
into it.
going to be breastfeeding by then.
This, I don't know. This should be, I feel like this might be easier than in the past.
I mean, it has to be.
Yeah.
We learned so much that first time
Oh,
around.
yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah,
that
for
was-
sure.
I guess what I'm
Insanity.
saying is that I feel like because we haven't solidified the actual layout of how this is all going to go, I have anxiety. Like,
And where we're
and
going?
in fact, probably when we leave here, I'm going to text you guys with like a Zoom link. Like we need to sit down
Yes.
to discuss all of this because it can't be glazed over. It needs to be very strategically.
Oh,
thought out.
100%. And I feel like we need at least a good 9 to 10 opportunities for these girls that they can raise money to put towards the trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need a lot.
So we'll have to sit down and talk about that. But that's coming up in 2025, guys.
Yeah. But that's actually a good point. Like having something to work towards, because then you can kind of like implement those little contests throughout the years to support like what you're struggling with too.
And I was actually talking to Lexi yesterday in the office, and we were talking about like a specific scenario or something that happened on the last trip that we went on. So I was like, I think I have a video of that. So I start looking through my pictures and videos of the last trip, and it just got me so pumped up for this next trip. Like, I just can't wait because...
Was it me tackling Katie Halley on the beach?
No, that was amazing, but it was actually Dana. Dana belly flopping in the foam when the foam party didn't even start yet. Like they were just getting the foam to come into the pool, and Dana spotted it from the pool bar and ran over and literally was belly flopping into it by herself. No one else is around.
That's amazing.
And I have it all on video, so I'm showing Lexi. I'm like, this was just like a good time
That's so
all
fun.
day and night.
One of the big things that we did at this meeting, which like honestly shocks me that we haven't done this yet, but basically the fact that we haven't had a shared calendar, you know, like,
We have, but
have?
not like the whole team.
So Brooke, shout out to Brooke, who handled this like a champ, but basically recorded like everything that we were saying and when we were going to be doing this and when we were going to be having this promotion and what our slow periods were. And now anytime I go into my my calendar on my phone, I can literally see it. It's like amazing.
So yeah, that's a game changer for sure.
That was a big deal. And I feel like, I think a big thing is that with the pre-treat, that's going to be something that we're going to do also. When we sit down and come up with this plan, we'll have Brooke basically add that to the calendar, so we're all prepped and ready, and there's no time spent figuring out logistics because we will have already done the work.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to 2025. I think it's just going to be such a fun to zone in on the certain things we just talked about, but especially having the pre-treat to plan for, and just get excited about it. I think it's going to be a great year for us.
One class that we're definite on is having a class with one of our brands, Kerastase. Her name's Kate Drinkwater.
Kate Drinkwater.
So she's coming in to not specifically teach a class about Kerastase, but more so just the perceived value and what your experience should look like as a guest. And then in addition to that, we're doing a business building class.
Mm-hmm. You know, I think that after reviewing where we're at right now, this year the focus is shifting for education a little bit back into the business side of things, which I think moving forward, it's probably going to be like an every other year type of thing. Because I imagine, you know.
And we are doing like technique class. We're doing a cut and coloring class also.
Yep.
And we have a ton of education for, you know, the lower level stylists and the upcoming stylists throughout the year for them. It's not like we're like always totally mixing all the technique classes, but
we're always offering the opportunities at the exchange. So,
yeah,
you know, that's huge for us too.
Yeah.
But I got to be honest, guys, we need some fresh leadership education next year.
Mm-hmm.
Like I got the itch ever since we went to Atlanta.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to getting some of that on the calendar too.
But this podcast is probably going to be released in like January, February. So we usually have like our leadership meeting in November for the year, for the following year. What are our plans for leadership meetings moving forward? Are we going to have...
I think we should do them every quarter.
Agreed.
You know, I think it's important to reflect on your quarter, your past 3 months, like number-wise, what your plan is going forward. I think it's important. I think we should definitely nail down 4 more leadership meetings throughout 2025.
I think we have to, simply because the quarters for us are such big time frames. That's how we measure.
Yeah.
You know, we measure a lot of things based on the quarter. So I think a quarterly meeting with the leadership team is pretty important.
What would you say to like a salon owner who's like just starting out, who doesn't have a leadership team? Like, how would they start this process?
I don't necessarily think like you have to have a leadership team, but I think what you talked about earlier, Mon, being able to identify. I mean, you have to have an employee that's got your back, that, you know, wants what you want, shares the same vision, or, I mean, it just wouldn't work. Yeah. So I would take that person on if you only have one other option, like maybe reach out to one of your team members. It doesn't have to be a manager, or, you know, and put your minds together. What I'm trying to say is I feel like when you have all the pressure on yourself, it's a lot. And it's like trying to figure out everything, having the answers, coming up with the promotions, like everything. But if you can pull one other person at least just to like bounce ideas back and forth, like that is such a huge relief for anybody.
Right.
And it could be such a beautiful thing for your salon.
Yeah. Yes. And I think that just the end of the year in general, right? It's such a good time to just do evaluation. You know, that's all. It could be 1 change. It could be 10 changes. It could be a huge change or small changes or whatever. But I just think that it's a fresh start. You know, 2025, January 1st, it's a good time to make a shift. And to somebody who's on the smaller side or somebody who's not on the smaller side, whatever the case may be, I just think it's a great time to, you know, do some self-reflection and get a game plan in place. Yeah. And that's all.
Wait, we forgot the most important decision of the meeting.
What?
Where we're eating lunch from.
Oh. Oh, that day where we decided it was terrible. I hated my lunch that day.
Yeah, you did not like your lunch.
Oh, I didn't touch it.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today, talking about the 2025 strategy and how you can implement a leadership team in your company. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.